Prioritize and execute.
Prioritize and execute, you are going to have problems. You're going to have problems. And in fact, you're going to have multiple problems. And because of Murphy's Law, all these problems are going to come at you at the same time. That's the way the world works. And the reason that this law of combat is in place is because if you try and solve all of your problems simultaneously, you won't solve any of them. You have to figure out which is the biggest problem that you have, and then you need to focus your resources on that problem, get that problem solved, then move on to the next one, get that next problem solved, and so on down the line. That's what we need to do. I've seen this with companies. I'll go and work with a company. They have 47 initiatives that they're working on simultaneously. There's no company in the world that can execute 47 initiatives at the same time. You need to figure out which is the most important initiative. Put your resources on that one, focus on it, get it moving in the right direction, get it solved. Now, does this mean that the other projects or the other initiatives disappear? No. Does it mean that every single resource is going to get focused on this one thing? No. But if it's the priority, then I can at least make sure they have all the resources that they need. And then my leftover resources, I'll put on that next priority down the line. And if I still have resources left over on the next priority down the line, and so on and so forth. But I need to make sure I understand what the priority is. I need to focus the resources in the right spot. And I need to make sure that everybody on the team understands that this is our biggest priority. Because if I'm over here working on something that isn't due for another 4 months, and I realize that the people that have something that's due next week are falling behind, I should be able to say, you know what? We need to help them out. Let me grab 3 people from my crew, let me send them over there and get them moving and get them further towards their goal. Otherwise, we're gonna get off our critical path, we're gonna miss this. So everybody's gotta understand what the priorities are, and then we gotta execute on those priorities.
Now, what if you're like a young foreman and everything's going wrong? I mean, it's just a total disaster. Can you talk about detachment and stepping away from the situation, detaching?
Yeah. I thought you were going to ask about, which is a question we get all the time, which is, what about when the boss says everything's a priority? You know, and that does happen. Everything's a priority, so what do? You still have to prioritize and execute. Because if my boss tells me, hey, Jocko, you need to get everything done, and I try and get everything done at the same time, I'm not going to be able to take care of my boss because I'm not going to be able to get everything done. So I absolutely have to, even in a situation where every priority is important, I still need to focus my resources correctly to make sure that we're moving in the right direction. Now, what you're talking about with a foreman who's got things that are going wrong, they're going sideways. And you mentioned the word detach. This is something that I talk about all the time, because if I'm the foreman and I have problems and I jump into one of those problems and start trying to solve one of those problems while other things are going wrong, well, now I'm only focused on one thing. I can't see. One of the other priorities might actually become the number one priority, and I don't see it because have entered into the gunfight myself, and I lose track of everything else. Or maybe I got the client is yelling and screaming at me about something, and now there's emotions in play, and I start escalating my emotions. I'm not going to make good decisions when I get emotional. I'm not going to make good decisions when I am down there in the front line trying to make something happen. So what I have to do is I have to take a step back. I have to detach. I have to assess the whole situation. I have to see everything. I can only do that if I detach from my emotions, detach from the mayhem, detach from the chaos. That's where I can assess what the priorities actually are. Because although I might have a client on one job that's yelling and screaming and losing their mind, that person might be yelling and screaming their mind over something minor. And yet I go get focused on it, and I bring extra crew over there, and I pull them off of another job. Well, the job that I pulled them off of was the job that actually is the one I should be focused on. And I allowed these emotions to upset my logic. So what we need to do is detach, take a step back, do a true logical assessment of what the scenario is, and then prioritize and execute.